Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular session of council. It is Thursday, March the 6th, 2025, 6:30 p.m., and I will call this meeting to order. First order of business is a procedural one. So I have a motion that reads that in accordance with section 513 of the procedural bylaw, item 13.2A be considered after section 9. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Emerson will move. Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That's carried. Going to remind council of any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Seeing none listed. I don't believe there are any items not listed in the agenda.
No items tonight, Mr. Mayor.
All right, section 4, any announcements this evening, council? Councillor Emerson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor and staff, the council and all the people that are listening. Periscope Theater reached out and asked me to announce that they have completed all their additions and construction and signed off. And that they were looking forward to expanding its programming and services for the community.
Fantastic, that's great news.
And going forward with that, Tim and Katie Wells organized a great fundraiser to raise money for the Lighthouse, and it was held at Periscope Theater, kind of brought the community together, and I think just under $10,000 was raised.
Good.
And if you consider all the organizations and everything, including myself with the nonprofit, I think that the whole Lighthouse thing is kind of pulled the community together between the Submariners and Lions Club and all the restaurants that carried the Lighthouse Lager beer and everything. I think it shows great community support and a desire to restore the Lighthouse. And I would hope that we move forward with whatever plans we have to capitalize on that enthusiasm.
Thank you for that. Additional comments or announcements from members of council? Thomas, you have budget announcements?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a quick reminder that in respect of the 2025 operating budget, we anticipate having a draft out for public consumption near the end of next week and are looking at a special operating budget meeting for Thursday, March the 27th.
Okay, fantastic. Let's move on then in our agenda. We're going to go to section 7. Adoption of the minutes of the previous meetings. Includes the minutes of the regular council held February the 20th, statutory planning meeting held February the 20th, and the special meeting of council held February 27th. Everyone's had opportunity to peruse those minutes. If there are no errors or omissions, I would entertain a mover and seconder for the following. That the minutes from the regular meeting of council held February the 20th, 2025, the minutes of the statutory planning meeting held February 20th, 2025, and the minutes from the special meeting of council held February the 27th, 2025 be approved as presented. Deputy Mayor Weisler, Councillor Froese, all in favor? That is carried, which brings us down to, I believe it's item 13.2, correct? Would that happen to be your report, Lauren?
That would be, your worship.
Please bring it forth.
Good evening, your worship, members of council. For you tonight is Project Ojibwe's refinancing plan. As council is aware, 10 years ago, coming up on March the 20th, council had to enter into a 10-year debenture at the time to finance the $6 million guarantorship to bring Project Ojibwe to BAM. I'm not going to rehash the history. It's in the report. If anyone wants to know the history of the project, I want to talk about what our strategy is tonight and what our next steps going forward are. So before you tonight is the staff report, which outlines our financing options, whether we decide to terminate the debt, go with either TD as renewal, other lenders, or at discretion of council, using the guarantorship reserve to eliminate the debt. To remind council, this is the only debt that we currently have on our books financially. This is a non-core debt, non-asset, non-recoverable debt, and has been serviced by the tax levy for the last 10 years of our residents. We do have the reserves available, and they're ready to terminate that if council wishes.
That's a truncated report, Mr. Treasurer.
Simplified.
I would say it is. Okay, I would fully anticipate and expect that council has had an opportunity to study this particular report and has an understanding of the options being presented before them. Let's open it up to council for any discussion and see where we go from there. Anyone wish to speak? Councilor Chilcott.
Thank you. Well done again, Lauren and staff and taxpayers and everybody involved in getting rid of this debt if we vote for it tonight, which I recommend. I would like to retire the debt. And yeah, well done.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for those comments. And Deputy Mayor Weisler.
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a few comments to make but I'll start by saying I 100% support option number 1 from this report. And I thank you very much, Lauren, for bringing this forward to us. And as far as it goes with comments, it was 6 years ago that Councillor Froese said around this very horseshoe what we were all thinking at the time and what we were all worried about. And if we as council didn't come up with a solid plan, our community, our children, and their children would be paying for this guarantorship loan. And everyone agreed that that was unacceptable. So a plan was made and the vision was clear. And since this time, BAM staff and council have had to make a lot of very difficult decisions. Every single budget cycle has been grueling in the last 6 years. As council has tasked our staff with the seemingly impossible challenge of saving money while maintaining our current level of service. And this had to be done throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, the ever-changing political climate, and the economic inflation. So last year, at the recommendation of our Chief Financial Officer, Lauren James, and with the full support from council, we invested wisely and it paid off. And at our special budget meeting last week, we recognized the excellent interest return that we were able to get on those investments, and that's really helped us get here. So today, this moment is where focused vision and steadfast determination pay off. And if it were not for our amazing staff and for this council, I fear this report would have had a very different outcome. So throughout the entire journey, I do also have to recognize that the true heroes are our residents. And those residents include council and staff. And I cannot tell you how many times, how many community events, parades, meetings, dinners that I've shared with you, the residents, over the years, and I have heard your encouraging words, your support to keep going, to stay the course, to retire the debt. And even with the extremely difficult decision last year, which resulted in our largest tax increase since I have served on this council, our community has continued to rally. And even though we have all of us, we've struggled financially, we've had to make many sacrifices, but we've persevered. And today we realize that our future is bright here in Bayham. So while I cannot speak for all of council, I can extend my heartfelt thank you to the staff, to our residents, and to my fellow colleagues. And I'm honored and I'm proud to serve alongside each and every one of you. And I do have to say, to finish off, that I do believe this will be the first budget cycle that I'm actually looking forward to. So on behalf of myself, Lauren, Thomas, And staff, thank you very much for your hard work on this, and I fully 100% support option one. Let's retire this debt.
Thank you for your support on us.
All right, well, thank you very much for those comments, Deputy Mayor. I almost called you up. I almost give you
There we go.
almost give you a promotion, didn't I? I'm glad you're looking forward to the budget cycle, but keep in mind that we still have, we see
Still
the
there.
tree line, but we're still in the forest.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, so we need 25 to get us out of the tree line. But I am pretty confident it's not gonna be anything like last year.
Mhm.
Pretty confident. So I'm going to allow my other colleagues, if they wish to make their opinions known on this. Yes, please.
Mr.
Councilmember
Mayor, I'm in support of option one as well, but I just have one quick question, just so everybody's listening in the gallery and at home, and it's just some reassurance. If we choose this, I'm sure you're wise enough to have devised a plan in case there's something there for a catastrophic failure of a gully or a road.
$22 million in capital debt available through the province at the cheapest rate humanly possible,
Oh,
Well,
that's a good one.
yeah, that's all I want.
as well as $7 million in reserves after we extinguish the debt.
Be careful. Some of those reserves are already
Some are
earmarked and
restricted,
allocated.
some are restricted, but they were
Yes.
defined for departments.
No, I just think it's fair that everybody knows that there is a backup plan if we take all this out of our funds and reserves and something horrible happens. Probably won't, but you never know, right?
It's a very prudent question to ask, Councillor Emerson, and I appreciate you bringing that forward because yes, to rob the cookie jar and have nothing left should something happen is not very smart. But we, as the treasurer had indicated, yes, by freeing up the debt capacity, should council choose to do so, then there is that cushion. I would call that as a perhaps your last line of defense, but there are those in between or intermediary steps of exercising some of those reserves. But keep in mind, 2025, we've still got to pay back some of the reserve that we're going to borrow to actually do this. If we choose to do so.
Right,
Yeah, but no, it's a good question to ask.
right. I just wouldn't want to end back up in the same place we are. Because we did something,
You might see a publisher from a local newspaper get after us if we did something like that.
Mhm.
I would think.
Yeah, speaking to him on Sunday. Councilor Froze.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Tim, one sub is enough. We don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
I agree. Hey, I'm too extremely happy that this has come around. And as you said, Mr. Mayor, we might still be in the woods, but I think we need a band-wide party. Let's do this.
A bush party. Good for you. Good for you. Fire chief's worried. Okay. Now, just to end off some remarks here, you're, Deputy Mayor, you were absolutely correct. It took 6 years to actually 4 years of just blindly trying to pay along and trying to figure out what we're gonna do. So Councilor Froze, you were absolutely right. 6 years ago, you put the challenge on the table, started the ball rolling. And there were a couple of hiccups, but we still got there. And the concerted effort in the last 3 years to really move this ahead, I think is important to recognize. And Deputy Mayor, you referred to the resiliency, I guess you could call it, and I would use the word resiliency of the ratepayers in Bayham. They understood where we were going. They were patient with us. And you're absolutely right. They are the unsung heroes here. We may have helped steer the ship, staff, through prudent financial management. You helped to get us where we need to be. I haven't heard anybody out here talking about not taking you up on option one. So I'm fairly confident that that's where this is going to fall out. I'm going to, I think if there are no other comments, we're going to go through the motion. And then just to inform people, we are going to take a brief recess. Those who are present in the gallery, please maintain decorum until we recess. If you wish to dance after that, go for it. But just hold your horses for now, okay? Thomas, you have something you wish to say?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I want to formally thank BAM staff and senior management for what they've done over the course of the last 10 years. And recognizing that I've only been here for the last 4 years and haven't been here for the balance. We've got a number of members of the senior team right now that are in attendance that have been here for the entire 10 years that we've had the debt. So not only do we have the treasurer, but we have Ed Rollison here and Margaret Underhill. We've got Steve Adams, and we also have Harry Baronick here. Lauren's done a great job leading from a financial perspective and making sure that we're keeping our costs in line. But everybody here that manages a departmental budget, all the other senior managers that I mentioned have done an instrumental job to get us to where we are today. We truly do win and lose as a team, and this is a significant win for the municipality. So congratulations to everybody. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for that, Thomas. Certainly appreciate it, because, truly, from the administrative side, these are the people who had to do with less in order to get us to this point. So recognizing that, your sacrifices and efforts have not gone unnoticed. We certainly appreciate it. Okay? There's nothing else here. I think it's a foregone conclusion, but I will read the motion and we'll see where we go. I got an idea who wants to move and second it. I can see it coming. Okay. The motion reads that report TR 0925 regarding Ojibwa refinancing plan bylaw number 2015-027 guarantorship reserve be received for information. And that the council of the corporation and municipality of Bayham directs that the guarantorship reserve be used to retire the remaining $4,073,431.49 in debt associated with Bayham's financial obligations under bylaw number 2015-027. And that the appropriate bylaw to authorize the discharge of the remaining debt obligations held by Toronto Dominion Bank be presented to council for enactment. And that any balance remaining in the guarantorship reserve be transferred to the rate stabilization reserve. And that the council, the corporation, and municipality of Bayham directs the formal dissolution of the guarantorship reserve. Would you be happy to move that, Councillor Froese? And would you be happy to second that, Councillor Chilcott? There's a significance why I asked for that.
Okay.
You'll figure it out.
I got it.
Yep, I figured you would. All in favor? That is carried, and thank you very much. And without further ado, we are going to take a brief recess, 10, 15 minutes, and then we will resume with the rest of our agenda. So we're pausing. All right, we're returning to our regular schedule. We left off at section 11, physical services, emergency services. Brings us to 11.2, reports to council. Item A, report FR 0125 by Harry Baronick, Fire Chief, regarding the 2024 Annual Fire and Emergency Services Report. Chief.
Your Worship, Council, thank you very much for hearing me out on our 24 annual summary. And the report that I've presented already for you to read. With regards to, this will also include our emergency measures management summary also. Well, 2024, we had the largest year in calls ever. The 216. Our previous was 204, and that was back in 2018. Our average is 182 calls per year. As you see, in the report that I provided for you, the comparisons are they're similar in nature of the calls that were happened. The division between the two stations, 2/3 were in the area of Station 1 and, sorry, 2/5 and 3/5 were in the area of Station 2. Those graphs in front of you can be somewhat misleading, as that is where the initial call was the area of. Many of these calls could be 2-station responses, and that does not mean that the other station is not backing up the first station that's in the area. With regards to, again, the percentages, very similar to all the previous 2 years. Medical calls have increased from 2022, where they were 44%, up to 50% for both 2023 and 2024. I've broken it down further into 7 categories, and in the categories being fire, medical, technical, public hazard, alarms, MVCs, burning complaints, and other mutual. With regards to fires, responded to 9 fire-related calls in 2024. Slight decrease from 2023. However, when it comes to burning complaints, being that they are fire-related, in 2022 we had 6. Last year we had 19. And the biggest reason for that is that last year and also in 2023, we were getting very dry in the spring and the fall. And in fact, the spring and the early summer. In fact, last year was the first year that the Elgin County Chiefs mutually agreed to a fire ban. And that had us responding quite a bit for those 2 or 3 weeks that we were there. When it comes to dollar amount value, although the number of structure fires were down, the dollar amount doubled from the year before. And that was mainly the result of one individual fire, and that being the Legend Fire. Legend Fire also had to do with the damages and also with regards to some of the costs we had there. You'll hear about later on in the budget that we did go over budget, especially on the equipment that was used, and a lot of that had to do with the $68,000 we used in foam for that fire. The other departments we used, we begged, borrowed, and stole from everybody. Elmer was a great asset as they came with their foam truck, and on their foam truck they have a large container of fire, a vat of fire foam, and that was able to be used. We expended the entire vat and also several pails from Tilsonburg, ourselves, and some from Malahide. The causes, there is no single cause for these fires, as reported. We have one was inattentive cooking, another one was improper wiring, one was possibly a burning too close to a building on a windy day, and the last one was we believe was unsafe storage of a product that they wouldn't have known it was unsafe. So there's no one really to blame for that. Medical responses, well, as you see, we're still going up in medical responses. And what's funny is that in the summer of 2023, the paramedic crew down in the Port Burwell station was fully staffed for day shift. There's good news and bad news about that is they can attend, but once they attend, they now have the ability to transport. And they're transporting them when they're out. We're the backup for them. many times. And they're also called for backup into other areas when the other areas are short. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Other calls, as I said, the MVCs, slightly up in MVCs. What's significant is they're not on Highway 3 as they usually are. Highway 3 was down, but they are right across. What we also have to be aware of is that MVCs, people are calling many times, unknown at the injuries. Run across, there's a vehicle on the side of the road, we call. I don't know if anybody's hurt, so we all get tiered out. Police, fire, and ambulance. Many of those are just simple department or what we would call is property damage only. People are fine. However, we are still tiered out for it. And the other one is, we've had a couple where, one was the funniest one where the gentleman left a cell phone on the top of the roof. He drove off and the cell phone hit the ground. Cell phones now have the ability to call 911.
Oh,
Call their emergency signal sends it out. And I met the gentleman at the intersection where it was had, and he was driving back and he said, yeah, my girlfriend got a call that that was sitting beside me saying that I was involved in an accident. And then I looked at my cell phone and went, oops. So they pinpointed where cell phone was. And this is, we were geared out for it. Public hazards. I want to put one, I have to compliment the Ontario Hydro this year. They've done a great job in their tree cutting and their forestry. We haven't been out that much for hydro lines down, trees on hydros. They did a very good job this year. EPCOR, we had one major gas leak in EPCOR, and that was on Plank Road in the fall. A tree had fallen on the gas line and severed the main valve. And what was interesting is afterwards, I was approached by the person who responded from EPCOR, and he thanked me very much for the way we set it up and the way we were doing it. Training, as you can see that mandatory training is still continuing. We're still working hard at ensuring that we remain a full service department. And our recruits since for the last 4 years have all attended the Elgin Middlesex Regional Training School. Through that training, they are given the instruction and the ability to receive their firefighter level 1, firefighter level 2, and hazmat, which is what is required. So anybody that is not successful, we help as much as we can to get them through the course. We do have a small group of individuals that between 2015 and 2018, there was some indecision from the Ontario government as to exactly what they were going to do with regards to going towards the NFPA standards or not. So people did not receive their certificates. Henceforth, certificates is what is required, so we're working to get those few firefighters through their certification programs. And then the next pressure on us will be anything that involves technical skills such as high angle, water, ice water, swift water, will all have to be certified by July 2028. And it does not matter if you were pre-certified or not. Pre-certifications will not be counted. This is a new program. The fire marshal has gone into great depths to create a new program for every individual skill, and firefighters have to be certified to each skill. Equipment upgrades. Well, in 2021, council was grateful enough to allow us to, or I'm grateful enough to thank council for allowing us to purchase a new pumper. It was originally reported to come back in the first quarter of 2023 and finally arrived second quarter 2024, July 2024. It is now fully operational. In 2024 March, the Stratfordville Fire Associations, through the various fundraising events, donations from the community, and the Port Porwell Fire Association also donated into that, towards that the side-by-side UTV. We received that, and then the Canadian Foundation for Firehouse Subs donated roughly just over $12,000 for the skid unit on the back of that UTV, and that's already been used. It was able to get through crowds at the solar eclipse, and we've also used it at a couple of grass fires and another couple of calls where there were fires in wooded areas that would have taken us, well, over a half hour to walk back and forth, just carrying our equipment before we even got there. So it's been utilized and gratefully appreciated. And finally, in the fall of 2024, council approved for the new tanker. This was truly a use of scales of economy because we purchased it with involving Malahide Township and West Elgin Township. Fire safety, go through the fire prevention week. This year's was smoke alarms, make them work for you. And almost every school, both public and private, were attended by our by crews or the different stations, the two stations. And then that night, both stations had their open houses and we had members of the community. So they were good, successful open houses for the two stations. Emergency management. Oh, yeah, on April 8th, 2024, after one of our structure fires, by the way, the path of the total solar eclipse came through municipality Bayham. This led to great unknowns. Didn't know how many people, how it was going to affect our community. And that allowed us, that causes some difficulty for somebody from the emergency management side. CAOs and fire chiefs and CMCs throughout the province, for a year, we're planning on this. Trying to come up with scenarios that would work. Finally, on April 4th, 2024, we established our emergency operations center. And through the staff, senior management, we were able to look out how internal departments will assist in the municipality's needs. But also we looked at Elgin County's emergency control group and others agencies such as the OPP and Amateur Radio Club, who all were in attendance for that day. Also, staff had also attended several small businesses, especially in the Port Borwell area, to ensure that they were properly prepared for that day. And I believe it was a great success. Just to let you know, at the end of the year, we had completed our required training in the emissions emergency management preparedness plan submission was submitted to the AMO, and they accepted us, which puts us in good standing. Further, last December, as you recall, I was able to stand before you and advise you that the municipality of Bayham received $50,000 through their grant, the MO grant, for a trailer that we're going to be using for emergency responses. And also, we also received a separate reception trailer for from the county of Elgin, which is part of their inventory, but will be used for if we need to set up a reception center in this area. It contains clocks, water, and that type of thing already preloaded into it, and also the paperwork that would be provided for needed for a reception center. Budgets. Well, we didn't do that bad. Unfortunately, my revenues were short, and that was mainly due to issues we had with the MTO Data Access Center. I can tell you that they have been resolved, and we are now working on the process of collection from the last year. Operational equipment, again, as I mentioned, Legend Rubber definitely impacted that line of the budget for that foam. We are still making for revenue, we're still making our submissions through Fire Marquee to when we can. And that was also made through the Legend Rubber Fire. They were part of that group. Vehicle maintenance, we're slightly over that. One of the main reasons was because Stratford Road Pumper had a major issue with it. It was unforeseen, however, it was absolutely necessary to repair in order to keep that truck operational. Grants, well, I think I've gone over most of them. 12,000 for the Canadian Foundation of Fire Subs for that skid steer unit. 16,200 from the Fire Protection Grant. I have not mentioned that one in this report yet. And with that, it's was one of the main focuses was cancer prevention. Cancer is one of the leading causes of deaths amongst firefighters. Firefighters, I was just on a webinar today, and firefighting is considered a class 1 occupation for cancer. And that was from the World Health Organization. They've considered this. So we do have, the government has a cancer prevention checklist. We are looking at ours and going through ours. We have in the past, and we will continue to do that. I can tell you that, as I'll mention there further, I sit on the Section 21 committee for the province, and we're looking at reviewing that entire checklist. And the checklist can be used, and I've been told has been used by the Ministry of Labor if they come in to do an inspection. Further, so we 60,200, half that will go towards a plexiglass partition down in the Stratfordville, or sorry, the Port Burwell station. And that plexiglass is between the bunker gear room and the apparatus room to assist with stopping the gases from the vehicle, especially when they're starting, from landing onto the bunker gear and attaching to the bunker gear. Staffordville Station, they're going to build a room on their mezzanine, and it's going to be moving the extractor, which is a large washing machine meant for bunker gear. They're going to move it from the main hallway in the station, where we shouldn't have dirty bunker gear, and putting it up above the in its own room, above the apparatus room, and also for the drying room. And finally, in conclusion, we have some significant personnel changes, as I stated. Chief Perry Grant, he stepped away from the fire department after 55 years, and we plan to recognize him on the awards night. I'm just going to jump right into our priorities. With regards to the 2025 priorities, our recruitment, we're planning on doing another recruitment in 2025. We talked about mandatory certification. There's a risk assessment that is a requirement under provincial legislation. And it's my intent to have that concluded by the second or third quarter of this year. I will continue to be involved and have my members involved in associations that can assist the department, such as the fire prevention associations. Review of finances. With regards to that, to issue, one of them is going to be to assist that I'm going to put a goal for myself to keep up to date with our ability to obtain revenues, whether through the MTOs or through Fire Marquee, and continue to look for grants. Fortunately, probably becoming very shortly to council with regards to a request for purchase for self-contained breathing apparatus. I'm not going to go into detail for that. However, it is becoming quite apparent that we need that very shortly. Emergency management. Again, we want to keep control of what we've done, keep in good standing with the emergency measures, and work with the county on their new idea of how municipalities in Elgin County will work with their emergency management. I'm all booked for questions.
Thank you for that, Chief. Any questions from council? One, Councillor Emerson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the fire chief. I just kind of seems out of proportion, the amount of medical calls, and we're grateful and thankful that you're there to help people in time of need. But is there any way to lobby for enhanced paramedic services so that the money is actually in the right budgets? If you just a question, because it seems like maybe we're paying for something that the province should pay for. Maybe I don't know how it all works, but I'm asking.
I'm going to take a stab at it, but I'm going to ask you for a comment on that as well, Chief, because the question I had was in like vein. When you consider the fact that the majority, from an overall point of view, you're saying 50% of the call outs are from a medical perspective. They're relatively equal between station 1, station 2. And yet since 23, we've had ambulance crews actually stationed, not just a first responder, but crews, transport capable in Port Burwell. I'd like you to perhaps expand on commenting, like, why is the call out increasing for medical calls when you've got the ambulance there? Just make a comment on that, Chief. Then I want to talk to Councillor Emerson as well.
We do have a tier,
Issue.
Your Worship, and to answer Councillor Emerson through Your Worship, we do have a tier response agreement with them. I mean, through the agreement, it has different types of calls when we will respond to them. Anything that is life-threatening, we will respond with them. You must understand that with their capabilities right now, they're, when it comes to any type of vital signs absent call, it takes roughly 4 to 5 of us. We will, I've been on 2 or 3 calls very recently where we're working on the individual, the paramedics get there, they work on the individual, and then when they're transporting, we get 2 new firefighters to work with them all the way to the hospital.
Okay.
So life-threatening, type of incidents, and the nature of our demographics too, kind of getting older. Hate to say it, but large of our population is. We're getting a lot of shortness of breath, chest pain, and could be a heart attack. So until we get there and we can assess, that's what we're doing.
So essentially then, Chief, you're not, because I know that we've taken the fire department to task on this in the past, with past councils as well. You are not, you're not being dispatched on things other than very severe requirements.
We do have, and I have put it in there, that if there is a not so severe incident, but there's a time delay,
Right.
we will respond. And I put some of those I put for 20 minutes. If the ambulance is not getting here in 20 minutes, then we're going to respond. And it's the ability to, I kind of look at it, if it was my family member that was in assistance and is looking for help, it's to basically to help them as quick as possible and get somebody there. 'Cause the anticipation and anxiety can also affect their outcome.
Right. And also to help Counselor Emerson and council understand, when are these calls, the majority of them coming through? Are they coming through daytime or the evening?
Both, your worship.
Both.
Yes.
Okay, recognize we only have a 12-hour shift at Port Burwell for ambulance at the moment, but that is in the works to be expanded to 24-hour coverage.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess supplementary, it wasn't a criticism of the fire
No, no, no,
department.
no.
I was suggesting that maybe we should petition the paramedic services for more resources if that thing is growing
Yeah.
at a higher rate. And I was just suggesting that maybe we should actually ask for some help.
All I can tell you from the county perspective that yes, the goal going forward was to expand from a 12-hour to a 24-hour coverage.
And through your worship, may I just add one more comment, is that although expansion into 24-hour service, again, where we had the one person, it would go there, it'd be assisted by another ambulance, move transport, and then that person would come right back to the station.
Yeah.
Now they're collecting and they're getting out of our area, which is now leaving a temporary void. And when other areas are short, they do what they need to do, and they move our area to help assist to stand by in another area. It is the process. I guess it would be up to county to say that they need more ambulances. And Medivy to put that argument in and county to accept because it's a county responsibility.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Yes. That's part of the dynamic that's going on. We used to be serviced down the 19 corridor, all completely out of the Oxford, Tillsburg station. Their population base expanded to the point where they just can't cover us off. But you're right, when the ambulance out of station 1 down here is on call, then there is a void in the system and they have to respond to either other Malahide or Tillsburg, which creates the gap that you referred to where the fire services then jump in.
And your worship, we are still being serviced by Oxford all the time.
Oh, I appreciate that.
They're
You're
coming
right.
down, especially anything in the north. That's where the first response usually is coming from.
I guess all I'm suggesting is we should lobby for more resources from the county.
It's coming. But thank you for that. Deputy Mayor, we have a meeting coming up in 3 minutes.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. Harry, thank you very much for your report. Under the training section, I know we've been working with the new established Elgin Middlesex Regional Training School, and that's been ongoing for a while. Are we starting to realize some significant cost savings now that we're not sending our guys all over the place?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The fact that the fire college closed, and the fire college was one place that we could send these people for that type of training. Otherwise, it was for colleges. These regional training schools, I don't have to pay somewhat of 70 cents per kilometer for people to attend schools. I've had courses where where I have sent some people to outside our regional training school and had to pay for them. And their mileage is more than the course.
Anyone else? Good discussion, good report. Thank you. Look at that, getting right here on time. We have a motion that reads that report FR 0125 regarding the 2024 annual fire and emergency services report be received for information. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Emerson, Councillor Froze. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. We're going to recess from our regular agenda in order to move into a statutory planning meeting. So I will call the statutory planning meeting to order at 7:29 PM. I'm a little quick. 7:30. Oh, God. Stand by. By analog time, we're 7:31.
Need an atomic clock.
Yeah, it's a little thing in the center of the corner going. Oh, now it's 7:30. Call this meeting to order. I'll remind the panel of any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. There are 4 public meetings this evening. The first one deals with the proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0425. That's at 11010 Culloden Road, Fair. Purpose of this bylaw amendment is to rezone the portion of the subject lands as a result of a severance and lot addition in zoning bylaw Z 456/2003. The proposed severed lot is to be rezoned from the agricultural A1 zone to agricultural A1A zone to maintain the agricultural use on lands over 40 hectares. The subject property is known as 11010 Culloden Road, east side and north of Eden Line. The effect of this bylaw will be to recognize the existing agricultural use of the combined lots in accordance with the official plan as part of the clearing of consent conditions for Elgin Land Division Committee, file number E92-24. That was conditionally approved on January 22nd, 2025. At this point, I will call for any public participation who wishes to discuss this file. Anyone who wishes to address this particular application, please attend the podium. Seeing none, there's none online. We're up, okay. I would note that there is no correspondence with this particular application. No other business. Which brings us to the adjournment. That the zoning bylaw be considered at a future meeting of council and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning application ZBA 0425 is now complete at 7:32 PM. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Shilcott, Deputy Mayor Weisler, all in favor? That's carried. Moving on with the second one, I will call this public meeting to order at 7:32 PM. Remind members of disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. The purpose of this particular application, proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0525 at 55942 Maple Grove Line, 1830567 Ontario, Inc. The purpose of this bylaw amendment is to rezone 2 portions of the subject lands as a result of a surplus farm dwelling severance in zoning bylaw Z 456/2003. The proposed severed lot is to be rezoned from the agricultural A1 zone to a site-specific rural residential zone, that's RRXX zone, to permit a minimum lot frontage of 13.4 meters. The proposed retained lot is to be rezoned from the agricultural A1 zone to a site-specific agricultural A2 zone to prohibit new dwellings and permit a minimum lot area of 9.3 hectares. The subject property is known as 55942 Maple Grove Line, north side and west of Plank Road. The effect of this bylaw will be to recognize the residential nature of the newly created residential lot and to prohibit new dwellings on the retained farm parcel in accordance with the official plan as part of the clearing of consent conditions for Elgin Land Division Committee file number E2-25 that was conditionally approved on January the 22nd, 2025. At this point, I will call for any public participation dealing with this file. If you wish, please attend the podium, sign in, and have your say.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. My name is Jesse Froese. I'm here on behalf of 183056-7 Ontario Inc. This is just your standard zoning bylaw change that was requested as a condition of a severance that has already been approved. So I don't see any problems or foresee any issues. But if you have any questions, I will be here and will definitely be willing to answer those. So thank you very much. I'll just sign this back because I'll be right back.
Thank you. Probably be another sheet for you to sign for the next one.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else wishing to speak to this file? All right, I would note that there is no correspondence or other business with this particular application, which brings us to the adjournment. That the zoning bylaw be considered at a future meeting of council and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning application ZBA 0525 is now complete at 7:35 PM. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Emerson and Counselor Froese. All in favor? That is carried. Start all over. Next, the clock will work. All right, I'm going to call this next public meeting to order at 7:35 PM. Remind members of disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. This is item C, it's proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0625 at 9837 Coyle Road, Wood. Purpose of this bylaw amendment is to meet municipal condition 1 for the County of Elgin E 8824 severance application and to facilitate the severance of agricultural lands and rezone the lands as follow. Agricultural A1 zone to be a site-specific rural residential RR zone for the severed lands to be consistent with the resulting land use and official plan policies for surplus farm dwellings. And with relief from section 7.4 to permit a minimum lot frontage of 41.5 meters, whereas 50 meters is required. An agricultural A1 zone to special agricultural A2 zone for the retained lands to be consistent with the resulting land use and official plan policies for surplus farm dwellings and prohibit new dwellings. The subject property is known as 9837 Coyle Road, west side, north of Howie Line. The effect of this bylaw is to meet municipal condition 1 for severance application E 88-24 that was conditionally approved on January the 22nd, 2025 by the Elgin County Land Division Committee. At this point, we will open up the room for public participation. Anyone wishing to address this particular file, please attend the podium. Sign in, please.
Good evening again, Council and Mr. Mayor. My name is Jesse Froese. I'm here representing Richard and Karen Wood on this zoning bylaw amendment application. This is a condition of a severance that was approved, and I don't foresee any problems. But if you have any questions, I'll be right over there. Feel free to ask. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak to this application? Okay, seeing none, I would note that there is no correspondence or other business with this particular application, which brings us to the adjournment. The motion reads that zoning bylaw be considered at a future meeting of council and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning application ZBA 0625 is now complete at 7:38 PM. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Emerson, Counselor Froze, all in favor? That is carried, which brings us to application D. And I will call this meeting to order at 7:39 PM. Remind the members of disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. And this application is dealing with a proposed amending bylaw to remove a holding symbol ZBA 1025 Vienna Ridge subdivision. The purpose of the bylaw is to facilitate the removal of H1 and H4 holding provisions on the lands legally described as Lot D north of King Street, east of North Street, part of Lot E east of North Street, part of Lot G south of Chapel Street, registered plan number 54 in the village of Vienna. The subject property, specifically the 8 proposed new lots, is to be rezoned from the holding village residential 1, that's R1 H1 slash H4 zone, to village residential 1 R1 zone in the municipality of Bayham zoning bylaw Z456/2003. The effect of this bylaw will be to satisfy the draft plan of subdivision agreement 34T-BA 2201 that was approved by bylaw 2025-009 on February the 6th, 2025 by the municipality of Bayham. At this point, I will open up the public meeting to public participation, should anyone wish to address this file. Anyone wishing to speak to this application, please approach the podium and sign in. I would note that there is no correspondence with this application. Or is there any other business? Which brings us to the adjournment. That the zoning bylaw be considered by council. And that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning application ZBA 1025 is now complete at 7:41 PM. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Counselor Chilcott and Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, we will now return to our regular agenda. We left off at item B, report PS 0225 by Steve Adams, Manager of Public Works, Drainage Superintendent, regarding the 2025 agreement renewals. Good evening, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, your worship, members of council. So yes, the report before you regard the 2025 agreement renewals, it provides a general update on our annual contracts or gives the option for the annual contracts that have a 1-year renewal period. We have quite a few that renew annually. A lot of them are up to 2 years. We have 2 additional 1-year renewals. So staff have been working with these contracts, a lot of these contracts within the report for several years, found that with the addition and the benefits of having some of these local agreements, they also provide greater flexibility when aligning with our ever-changing schedule. So within the report, I've identified 6 renewals that we've worked the last month to trying to get the best prices and lock in some prices for the 2025. I'll give you a brief overview of each one. It's been a while since we've seen some of these. So the first one was the various works for construction, operational, maintenance. This is equipment. Currently Underhill's Trucking have it. We utilize their excavator on an annual basis for capital and operational maintenance projects. Very handy to have the larger equipment. They also do some of our roadside cutting when staff availability just isn't there. We do own our own, however, it's generally when we're busy with staff time. So we'll bring in them, they'll get a cut, and Generally, the biggest equipment is the float and the excavator and the tractor that we use with them. So there was a significant increase. The last increase was in 2022. This one shows 10% over each year for a total this year of a 30% increase. I have looked into all the comparables to it. Other contractors are still well over $200. As an example, for the excavator, where we're at 185 for the same size machine, and the attachments for it. The roadside mower is a little bit different. It's hard finding contracted costs. However, MTO rates, which we utilize when we invoice, were actually about 20% under MTO rates for all their equipment at this point. So as much as it looks like a significant increase, we're still getting a pretty good deal. But the important one with this one is, I kind of just in the beginning there touched on it, is our schedule changes week by week, and it's very hard to have a contractor that's willing to work with us on that. As everybody knows, sometimes we get to projects hoping to work on it for a week at a time, but then we get a flood or lots of rain or who knows what, and we have to pull away. So this contractor is very flexible that way. We don't pay any extra. We don't pay. That was a lot of the other contracts in the past. They wanted if we pull out, we have to pay some sort of fee, for a daily fee for the machine to sit there. So it's been working pretty good that way. So that's the first renewal we have. The second one is the supply and placement of granular materials. This is again up for a 1-year renewal. Year after year, we've seen some significant increases during COVID due to fluctuation in the fuel prices. However, it's kind of simmered out, and we have $1.50 per ton. It's a 5.2% increase. Just as a comparison, I was interested in seeing what because I knew the price we originally got for this contract was very low. In 2017, right now, our 2025 price is 50 cents per ton difference from the next bidder in 2017. So we just caught up to our 2017 comparator. So we're still getting a very good rate. If the municipal, my guys were able to go out and with their trucks, it's a difference of $1.50. So generally we're paying in the area of $9 for delivery. So it's something that we can't beat. They apply it right to the roads. We've worked very well together. Again, they're very good, flexible with our equipment. We do have some strict stuff in our wording in our contract for amounts to be delivered daily. However, they'll work well with us if, again, if we don't have an operator or we run into issues. So that is for the supply and delivery. And yearly, like we're now councils, we've been aggressive the last few years. We started a gravel program. Between gravel on capital projects, operational projects, this year we're just under 400,000 with all our capital and operational. So it's a lot of gravel. Moving on, this one's very straightforward. This is the East Beach concession booth. Scoops, this is the final year for this renewal, so next year it will have to go to RFP. I haven't got a lot of interest over the last 3 or 4 years. We have had a bit of interest on people wanting to bid on it. However, the current rate's $3,000 a month. We didn't propose anything to them to up that. It's a pretty aggressive bid at this point. However, we're also implementing the paid parking, and there's been some concerns about that. So we'll see how it goes this year, and we'll put it back out next year and hope at least to get this amount back, because it does help with maintenance. So that one stays flat. The fourth one, line painting services, Guild Electric completes this. They put a 1.8% increase. This is for all our center line painting, yellow, white lines you see. It's a pretty big contract overall, because we do through the RMA, we do the county roads, which are generally 90% of, we don't actually have a lot of lines on our municipal roads. So this is more of along the line of the RMA. But we're over 100,000 a year just for striping roads now. So that one is also just up for 1-year optional renewals. Next one, bridge washing, mobile services. They do that. They've been doing it for the last 2 years. We kind of ran into a problem with contractor quitting on us a few years ago, so we went late in the year for that one. There is language in the agreement for this year and next year for a 1.5% increase. So they've agreed, no changes to the contract, we've agreed. Overall, it's a $300 difference for the year again. We're about 60-40 with the county, just on bridges and the time it takes for each bridge. And the final one is the preventative maintenance associated with the facilities. This is for the HVAC systems, Cooling Electric. It's been doing it for quite a while. Over time, I don't even know when the last increase was. They have a base price. They come in biannually. They service all the air conditioning units, furnaces. They're responsible for the filters, belts, the minor repairs. It's outlined within the agreement. Anything above that, and then we also sit down at the end of the year or after their maintenance, and we kind of just go over shape and condition of each unit, so we can where we can find it the best for the capital and operational budget moving forward. So again, that one, there was no change with that one. That one's just a year after year as well. So if there's any question on any one of these, we do have some more up this year. However, their contractors aren't eager to give us a price right now because it has to do with fuel, trucking. So we'll see that later in the summertime. I'll bring them forward before the fall because they're related to snow removal, hauling sand. And then we have a couple RFPs out for a couple other ones, but you guys will see in the next couple meetings. So any questions? I'm here to take. Get it all?
Thank you, Steve, for that report. I'm debating on whether I asked the question or not, but I'm going to ask council if you have any questions on any of these proposed contract renewals. Well, extensions, I should call them. On the one hand, I will make the comment that it is illustrative of what's driving some of the costing in the municipalities, where our contracts keep bumping up. We have to absorb that. That's one. I'm gonna ask it anyway. Hopefully it doesn't get me in too much trouble here, Steve.
Yes.
With respect to line painting services, does the contractor charge by the inch?
By the leader.
So
Every
lines,
technically
uses
it works
more
out to the
leader.
same. Yes.
Yeah,
There's actually a measurement in the OPS and the standards that we go by. The difference with that year over year is county projects. What roads this year, Glen Erie may or may not be striped. I haven't been told yet. So that changes it year after year. But yes, it's a very interesting one. This is one that BAM has been working very hard for the county to procure across, we're only looking at 10% of our roads. We're doing a lot of extra. It'd be a great countywide procurement
sure,
opportunity.
absolutely. I guess I was just tongue in cheek again. You look up there at New England and that's
Must have been a raccoon on the road. or
must have been a
something.
raccoon on the road because
Yes.
that's why I'm wondering what
Yes,
happened.
there is a tolerance on how much they can move, and before it's, they'll paint it black is really the only way they
Yes.
change it. And
Yes.
yes, we try to figure if it's worth it or not. They do every year. There's always a spot every year.
Absolutely. Counselor Chilcott.
Thank you. This is just a curiosity question. How long does do the lines stay reflective?
They can stay reflective. They can stay reflective for quite a while. The biggest thing is what is asked for within the agreements. It's kind of like our stop blocks. We do our stops, not same contractor. They have to be reflective. And county requires us to do them annually along with these lines. So that's the reason. Do we need to? No. If you actually notice, I don't always do our municipal roads as long as they're reflective at nighttime.
Yeah, there's other roads, not in our county, that
Mhm.
the yellow line is there, but you can't see it at night.
Yes, there are a few, if you really dig into it, there are some standards you're supposed to follow. I don't know who the line police are until there's an accident. Then you find out who they are. The lawyers
Point.
dig up this sort of stuff.
Hmm.
When was your last time? When was reflectivity done on it? So that's where you see that.
Any other questions? we have a proposed motion that reads report PS 0225 regarding the 2025 agreement renewals be received for information. And that council authorizes extensions to the following agreements as outlined in report PS 0225. Agreement number 0760 Underhill Trucking for the provision of various works associated with the construction and operation maintenance. Agreement number 0733 Johnson Brothers Limited for the provision of supply and placement of granular materials. Agreement number 0743 Simply Scoops for the provision of East Beach Concession Food Booth Services. Agreement number 0762 Guild Electric Limited for the provision of line painting services. Agreement number 0814 Mobile Services Inc. for the provision of bridge washing. Agreement number 0645 Cooler Electric for the provision of preventive maintenance works associated with various facilities. And that correspondence be sent to each contractor advising of the approved extension to their agreement under the manager of the Public Works signature. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Weiser will move. Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor for that? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on with section 12, Development Services, Sustainability and Conservation, 12.1 correspondence and 12.11 to receive for information. 4 notices of public meetings. The notice of the public meeting regarding proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0425 fair. Notice of public meeting regarding proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0525 1830567 Ontario Inc. Notice of public meeting regarding proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0625 Wood. And notice of public meeting regarding proposed amending bylaw to remove a holding symbol ZBA 1025 Vienna Ridge subdivision. I assume no one has any questions since we've already had the public meetings this evening. Seeing none, then I will need a mover and seconder for the following, that items 12.11A through D be received for information. Councillor Froese will move that. Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 12.2 reports to council. Report DS 1125 by Margaret Underhill, Planning Coordinator, Deputy Clerk, regarding the rezoning application ZBA 0325 Underhill Farms Limited at 55032 Vienna Line. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. The report before you is a rezoning application submitted on behalf of Underhill Farms Limited, proposing to rezone their property at 55032 Vienna Line. Purpose of the amendment is to rezone the subject lands as a result of a surplus farm dwelling severance. The severed lot is to be rezoned from A1 to rural residential to permit the existing single detached dwelling, and the proposed retained lot is to be rezoned from agriculture A1 to the special agricultural A2 to prohibit new dwellings. The effect of the bylaw will be to recognize the residential nature of the newly created residential lot and to prohibit new dwellings on the retained farm parcel, all in accordance with our official plan. This will also clear consent conditions of their consent application E5-23, conditionally approved on October 23rd, 2024. The public meeting was held February 20th. There were no signed-in attendees and no written public submissions. So the application is before you. We did deal with the consent application through staff report DS 77/24 back in October. And the Elgin County Land Division Committee granted the consent on October 23rd, 2024. So we have the two rezonings to satisfy the condition. We've received comment from 2 agencies, Southwestern Public Health and Long Point Region Conservation Authority, both with no objections. And staff and planner concur that the rezoning application meets our policies. We recommend approval. And the report is before you. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you for that report, Mark. Does anyone have any questions regarding this application? Okay, seeing none, we have a proposed motion that reads that report DS 1125 regarding the Underhill Farms Limited rezoning application ZBA 0325 be received for information. And that pursuant to Planning Act Regulations Bill 73 Smart Growth for Our Communities Act 2015, it be pointed out that the public participation meeting held February the 20th, 2025 associated with this application, there were no attendees, no oral presentations, no public written submissions, and 2 agency submissions from the Southwestern Public Health and the Long Point Region Conservation Authority received regarding this matter. And that all considerations were taken into account in council's decision passing this resolution. And that zoning bylaw number Z 456/2003 as amended be further amended by changing the zoning on a property located in concession 3, lots 10 and 11, known municipally as 55032 Vienna Line from agricultural A1 to special agricultural A2 on the retained lands, and from agricultural A1 zone to rural residential zone on the severed lands as a condition of consent E5-23 to permit the severance of a surplus farm dwelling in accordance with the municipality of Bayham's official plan policies. And that zoning bylaw number Z 798/2025 be presented to council for enactment. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councilor Emerson will move. Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? That be carried. Item B, we have report DS 1225 by Margaret Underhill, Planning Coordinator, Deputy Clerk, regarding the rezoning application ZBA 1025 Redicop, Weeb, the Vienna Ridge subdivision. Mark, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to council. The report before you is for a rezoning application submitted for William and Henry and Jacob Redicop and Peter Weeb, owners of the property currently addressed as 48 North Street, otherwise known as the Vienna Ridge subdivision. The purpose of the bylaw is to facilitate the removal of the H1 and H4 holding provisions on the lands in order to facilitate the development to proceed. So the lands currently have the H1 and H4. They have entered into a subdivision agreement with the municipality. It was approved through bylaw 2025-009 on February 6, 2025. And the public meeting was held tonight, March 6, 2025, with no public participation, no comments, and no public submissions. Purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw is to remove the holding, and they can proceed with their development of 8 lots. By entering into their subdivision agreement, they fulfilled the requirement to remove the holding provision, and therefore the report is before you for consideration. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, thank you very much for that, Mark. Any questions? Thank you. How, just trying to recall, this is 2 years so far, is it not?
Yes.
Okay,
Which is typical for a subdivision. It takes 2 to 4 years.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
So in that case, this has been moving along.
Quick, fairly well, yes.
All right. Seeing no questions from council, we have a proposed motion then that reads that report DS 1225 regarding the Redicop, Weeb, Vienna Ridge subdivision rezoning application be received for information. And that pursuant to Planning Act Regulations Bill 73 Smart Growth for Our Communities Act 2015, it be pointed out that at the public participation meeting held March the 6th, 2025, associated with this application, there were no written submissions and no oral presentations regarding this matter, and that all considerations were taken into account in council's decision passing this resolution. And that zoning bylaw number Z 456/2003 as amended be further amended by changing the zoning on the lands owned by William, Henry, and Jacob Redicop and Peter Weeb, identified as a Vienna Ridge subdivision at 48 North Street, and subject to plan of subdivision 34T-BA 2201 from holding village residential, an R1H1/H4 to village residential R1 zone. And that the zoning bylaw number Z 799 twenty twenty-five be presented to council for enactment. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Counselor Emerson will move, Counselor Frowe will second. All in favor? That is carried.
Thank you.
It was good foreshadowing in that motion. Section 13, Finance and Administration, 13.1 Correspondence, and 13.11 to receive for information. Item A from the City of Woodstock regarding the speeding, distracted, and impaired driving. Item B, Town of Halton Hills regarding the Ontario Deposit Return Program. Item C, the Municipality of Northern Bruce Peninsula regarding the proposed POHOOK mandate. Item D, the Town of Elmer regarding opposition to provincial legislation on cycling lanes. And item E, Elgin County regarding the February 25th, 2025 from the council chambers. Does anyone have any interest or any comment they wish to make on any of these items of correspondence? All right, seeing none, need a mover and seconder for the following, that items 13.11A through E be received for information. Councillor Emerson will move, Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That is carried. We've already done 13.2. We will go down to 13.2B. Report CAO 1425 by Thomas Thayer, CAO regarding the relinquishment of interest, the unopened road allowance with Part 2, Plan 11R 5255. Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the municipality has an interest in a small unopened portion of an unnamed road allowance identified as Part 2 on Plan 11R 5255. This property is currently owned by Underhill Farms Limited. However, the interest on title is subject to the interest of the municipality being Bayham. So this one dates back a little bit. This goes back all the way to 2012. 2012 council received a report to formally stop up and close this road allowance, and direction was provided to initiate the process to do so. However, the disposition never formally proceeded further. So the municipality continues to retain this interest, and we have been engaged by the solicitor of the landowner to restart this process to relinquish the interest in the road allowance. Given its legal status as an unopened road allowance, legal opinion has been obtained, and they do not recommend that we obtain and formally stop up and close. It hasn't been opened. There's no point in going through that process. However, they have advised that since Part 2 is not in municipal ownership and it was never formally opened, the best course of action would be to rescind the previous direction provided on September the 20th, 2012 regarding the closure because it isn't formally required. Council adopt a bylaw to formally relinquish council's interest in this unopened, unnamed road allowance, otherwise owned by Underhill Farms Limited. And then we'd make an application general through the solicitor on this file to have the interest formally removed from the title of the property, with costs recouped through Underhill Farms Limited for all the legal work required. So really this is housekeeping very much. This is a little orphan stub of road allowance that we're never going to open. It's in the middle of a farm field. And we really do have to relinquish interest in support of the landowner for purpose of, I believe, refinancing the property, and the bank identified it as a potential issue. So recommendation from this report is to proceed as outlined. And that is reflected in the recommendation. There is a draft bylaw later on in the agenda for council to consider. I'll leave it with you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much for that. Does anyone have any questions, any concerns regarding this? All right, seeing none, there's a proposed motion. I'll read it, see where it goes. The report CAO 1425 regarding the relinquishment of interest, the unopened road allowance, Part 2, Plan 11R 5255, be received for information. And that the council of the corporation municipality of Bayham rescinds its previous direction provided on September the 20th, 2012, associated with the report P 2012-11, which directed staff to initiate procedures to close Part 2 on Plan 11R 5255. And that the council of the corporation and municipality of Bam relinquishes any interest in the unopened road allowance identified as part two on Plan 11R 5255 being an unopened road allowance in favor of Underhill Farms Limited. And that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration. And that the municipality shall be reimbursed for any associated legal costs on this file by Underhill Farms Limited. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Counselor Froze, Counselor Emerson? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Brings us to the bylaws. 5 of them. First one, bylaw number 2025-017, a bylaw to authorize the execution of agreement between the municipality of Bayham and the Canadian Union of Public Employees and its local 35.4. Bylaw number 2025-018, being a bylaw to relinquish interest in a part of an unopened and unnamed road allowance in the municipality of Bayham in the county of Elgin designated as part 2 on registered plan 11R 5255. Bylaw number 2025-019, being a bylaw to authorize the discharge of all remaining debt obligations held by Toronto Dominion Bank, authorized under bylaw number 2015-027, Ojibwa debt retirement. Bylaw number Z 798, 2025, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z 456, 2003 as amended, Underhill Farms Limited. And bylaw number Z 799, 2025, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z 456, 2003 as amended, Redicop and Weeb. Does anyone have any issue with any of the bylaws? Wish any or have any questions or? All right. Motion reads that bylaw numbers 2025-017, 2025-018, 2025-019, Z 798, 2025, and Z 799, 2025 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Mover and seconder? Councilor Chilcott and Deputy Mayor Weisler, all in favor? That is carried. Brings us to section 16, other business. We will be going in camera. The motion reads that the council do now rise to enter into an in-camera session at 8:10 p.m. to discuss a confidential item regarding the personnel matters about an identifiable individual, labor relations, employee negotiations, human resources. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Emerson will move. Councilor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That is carried. We are in camera. We will take a short recess.